Hi, Alison Marsden here from Gardening by Design. Welcome to this box of tricks nugget, highlighting a few of the facts that you need to make the most of your garden. I do hope that you enjoy it.
What is soil made of, and why does that matter? The soil in our gardens is a wonderful resource, and we can get the best out of it by understanding just a little about what soil is made of, because it is not all the same. Topsoil is the layer that we dig and add to and feed, and basically we have control over this. But it's definitely worth finding out what is underneath your garden, the underlying rock or clay, even though you do not plant directly into it, because it influences how the topsoil behaves. Subsoil is generally a mix of the other two. One of the simplest ways to start out investigating your soil is literally to get a feel for it by picking up a handful, rolling it into a ball with a few drops of water if it's dry, and then squish it between your fingers to feel the texture. It's useful to do this for both your topsoil layer and the subsoil.
I have two samples of soil here from my own garden, so we'll do the squish and feel test. It's nice and moist already because it's been raining. So squish this one together, open it out, and you can see that it's really clinging together. You can see where my fingers have squashed it, and if I push it, again, it's smooth, it's quite sticky, and I can mould it a bit like plasticine or pastry. And that's telling me there's a high clay content in it, and that's my basic subsoil here in the garden. The other sample is a darker colour. Squeeze that one, again, squeeze it together the same, open it out. You can see that it's binding, so it is based on the clay soil, but if I touch it and try and rub it, it breaks apart into a much better crumbly texture. I can feel some sand, some grit, some little stones in here, and it's much more open. So that's how you do a soil squish test.
If the ball crumbles and feels gritty, then you have a high sand content. If the soil forms a fairly solid ball that can be moulded easily and feels smooth and sticky between your fingers, then you have a high clay content. If the ball holds together and feels silky and slippery and soapy, then you have a high silt content. But this is much less common than sand or clay. And now we have a bit of a Goldilocks moment. If it holds together but cannot be moulded, and you can detect all the textures in between your fingers, then you have a balanced loam, which gives you the basis to grow the widest range of plants. Let's look a bit more at each of these minerals and how they affect the water in the soil. Sand has relatively big angular particles. You can actually see individual grains of sand in your hand. There are loads of spaces in between, and water drains through very quickly and then out of reach of the plant roots. Clay has microscopically small particles that are flat and cling together, preventing water draining through, so you get a stiff, sticky mess in winter and solid dry lumps in summer, with very few air spaces. Silt has small, smooth particles, not as tiny as clay, so the soil holds water well without waterlogging, but it is easily compacted and very quick to dry out in summer. So I'm sure you can see that the ideal is a balance of all three. Water and nutrients are held in the soil, but you avoid waterlogging, and there are plenty of air spaces to supply oxygen. So that's it for the primary mineral sources of the soil. But if the underlying rock is very close to the surface, this too has a big effect. In the UK, chalk, a type of limestone, forms hills and downs, and often the layer of recognisable soil on top is very shallow. 10 to 15 centimetres is quite good. You can see the grass almost clinging straight onto the chalk in this photograph of chalk cliffs. Water drains very freely through the porous chalk, so these soils will always be very dry and, as you'll know if you have one, very challenging. There's more information about how the Gardening by Design box of tricks can help you to plan, plant and look after your plot on the Gardening by Design website. I hope to see you again on another topic soon. Happy gardening!